Dear respected brothers and listeners at home, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wal aqibatu lil muttaqeen was salatu was salam ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een, amma ba'd. Today, alhamdulillah, we begin the second lesson of our Road to Ramadan, Fortitude in Fasting. And last lesson, alhamdulillah, we covered and went into some detail in regards to making intention, okay? And just a quick recap of what we did last lesson. We looked at the different types of fasts as well. Can anyone remember the different type of fasts really quickly? Fard, Nafal and Wajib. Okay, that's why I do these recaps. Yeah, so you don't forget. So Fard, Nafal and Wajib. So the Fard fasts are when? Ramadan. Okay, the Fard fasts are in Ramadan. These are the different types of fasts. The Nafal fasts are the fasts which are virtuous and which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would keep. For example, fasting Mondays and Thursdays, fasting the day of Arafah, fasting the day of Ashura, and another Nafal fast? Ayyamul Bid. Well done, yes. The Ayyamul Bid, the 3 days, the 3 white days, the 13th, 14th and 15th. Okay, the Nafal fasts. Okay, so this was the second type of fasts. And the third type of fasts were the Wajib fasts. And what makes a fast Wajib? When you make a not intention, when you make a vow. I vow to fast this day. For example, if someone was to say, if I pass my driving, then I vow to fast 3 days. Now fasting for 3 days becomes wajib upon him. And this is sometimes people do this. These are for reasons why you might make a vow. Okay, if I pass my driving, I vow to fast for 3 days. So this now becomes wajib. Okay, and then we even spoke about when do you make the intention, from what time, in the fard, in the wajib, and in the nafal. And really a quick recap. What was a main term, a time that we learnt about last lesson? Can you remember the word for it? Can you remember the word? Before the middle, very close. Meaning you are right, before the middle. Yeah, the middle is basically when the sun is at its highest point, yes? That's the middle of the day. Between sunrise and sunset is the middle of the day. Arabic we call it istiwa. Okay? But the time we learnt about last lesson was known as Dahwatul Kubra, which is actually known as the Shari'i midday. It's known as the Shari'i midday. So the normal midday is between sunrise and sunset. Okay? But the Shari'i midday is halfway between Fajr and sunset. Okay? And of course Fajr is going to be earlier. Fajr starts earlier. So that's the Shari'i midday, is known as Dahwatul Kubra. For the Ramadan fast, you need to make the intention before that. For the Nafal fast, you can make the intention before that. And for the Wajib fast, remember we spoke about the Wajib fasts being of 2 types, isn't it? The Wajib fasts are of 2 types. The type where you've specified the date from before, and the type where you haven't specified the date from before. Okay? If I, for example, said, if I pass my driving, I vow to fast on the 13th, 14th and 15th of February, then I've already specified the day. In that case, I need to make the intention before Dahwatul Kubra. Okay? So, I've kind of got more time now for the intention. And for the vowed fasts, where you haven't specified that, if I just said I'm going to fast for 3 days next month, if I pass my driving, then I need to specify the intention before the Fajr time. Before the Fajr time. Okay, so these were things that we looked at last lesson. Now, inshallah, without any further delay, in the second lesson, what are our learning objectives, inshallah? So in the second lesson, our learning objectives for today will be the rulings of the qada fasts. Okay, the rulings of the qada fasts. Also, we will be looking at fulfilling the kafara. What is kafara? How do you fulfill the kafara? Okay, And what is the difference? Again, what is the difference between qada and kaffara? Okay, what is the difference between qada and kaffara? And usually when we refer to the qada fasts here, what fasts are we referring to? Which qada fasts? Huh?
Like Ramadan when you miss.
Exactly. Okay. So Ramadan, here qada is referring to the qada fasts of Ramadan. Okay. Understand this, okay. So first of all, you have the month of Ramadan. The fasts in the month of Ramadan are fard. Okay. We mentioned the ayat Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه. Okay, so the fasts of Ramadan are fard. Okay, now if you've missed them, they become qada. They become qada. Qada in English means missed. Okay, we always hear this term qada, qada. What's the opposite of qada? Who knows? We never even thought about what is the opposite of qada. You don't, it's not fard. Fard isn't the opposite of qada because qada is fard. Yeah, for example, if I missed the fajr today, if I missed the fajr today, then that fajr becomes qada. But the qada is still fard, isn't it? So what is the opposite of qada? If I missed it, then it becomes qada fard. But if I had prayed it on time, it is known as ada fard. So the opposite of qada is ada. Ada just means to fulfill, being fulfilled on time. Do you understand? So that's the opposite. Of course, no one's probably ever heard of this because we never think of it, but this is what it is. So the opposite of qada is ada. Ada, okay? So if you keep the fasts in Ramadan, then it's ada. And if you've missed it, then now it's become qada.
So you just drop the Q.
Meaning in English.
No, you just drop the Q. Is it ada and qada?
So in English, meaning you can, but of course in Arabic you're not dropping the Q, okay? If I was to spell it in Arabic, ada is spelled Hamza, Dal, Alif, Hamza, okay? Hamza, Dal, Alif, Hamza, ada, and qada is spelled Qaf, Dad, Alif. So in Arabic there's a big difference, yeah? Okay? So qada, which is missed, and ada, which is fulfilling on time, okay? So we're going to be looking at, so the main two things we're going to be looking at today are qada and kaffara. Okay, so the first question we have today, inshallah, is how late can you make the intention for the qada fasts of Ramadan? Okay, when we look at the ada fasts of Ramadan, remember I'm being more specific now. Okay, when you look at the ada fasts of Ramadan, how late could you make the intention? Remember the ada fasts of Ramadan, because the Ramadan has already been specified by Allah. So, say that again. What's it?
It's already been specified, right?
Yeah, so it's already been specified, but we still need to make an intention for the Ramadan, for the fasting. So, what's the latest that we can make the intention?
Midpoint.
But which midpoint? Okay, think about this. Okay, there's two middays. There's the normal midday and Shari'i midday. Shari'i midday is before. Remember, because you're looking at a bigger time gap between Fajr and sunset, then you get the Shari'i midday. So what is the latest we can make the intention for Ramadan fasts? Shari'i midday. Dahwatul Kubra, remember? Remember Dahwatul Kubra? Remember how do you figure it out? If you remember from...
It's from Fajr to sunset.
See, let me give you a really easy example so you understand, okay? So let's say, for example, 6 o'clock is sunrise. Easy numbers. 6 o'clock is sunrise. 6 o'clock is sunset. So when is midday? When is the normal midday going to be? Rayhan, do you know? 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock is the normal midday. But if Fajr is at 4 o'clock, yeah? Fajr is at 4 o'clock, yeah? Between 6 and 6 you have 12 hours, yes? Half of 12 is 6 hours. Add 6 hours to 6 o'clock, you get 12 o'clock. But now, how do you figure out the Shari'i midday? You look at the Fajr and sunset. You don't look at the sunrise anymore. Fajr is 4 o'clock and sunset is 6 o'clock. Now you have how many hours between? 14 hours. So you add 7 hours. Half of 14 is 7. You add 7 hours to 4 o'clock, which you get what time? 11 a.m. So now can we see? The Shar'i midday is 1 hour before the normal midday. So in Ramadan, I have until 11 o'clock to make intention that I'm going to fast. In Ramadan, yes? Yeah, for the nafil as well. The same applies for the nafil. So for the Adha fasts of Ramadan, I have until 11 o'clock. But for the Qadha fast of Ramadan, I have until 4 o'clock. So for the Qadha fast, because now of course, Qadha fast, you're going to be keeping them out of Ramadan usually, isn't it? You're not going to keep Qadha in Ramadan, are you? Because for example, you've missed Ramadan, it's the month of Shawwal now. Let's say for example, three fasts have become Qadha. Now of course, because it's not Ramadan and I want to keep these Qadha, I need to specify the intention before Fajr. Do you understand? I don't have until the Shar'i midday anymore. If you're getting confused, Shar'i literally means Islamic. Yeah? To make it easier for you to understand, Shar'i means Islamic. So the Islamic midday. When is the Islamic midday? It's before the normal midday. Do you understand? So in the Qadha fast, what's the answer? The fast of Ramadan, it can be intended from the previous night. You could make the intention before the previous in the previous night, that's fine. Remember in Ramadan, you can make the fast the night before, isn't it? So you can do the same as well for the Qadha fast. You can make it in the previous night, but it has to be kept before the true dawn. And remember, true dawn refers to the beginning time of Fajr. Okay, true dawn refers to the beginning time of Fajr. Who knows how to say true dawn in Arabic? Subah Sadiq. Subah?
Shouldn't forget that.
Yeah, I shouldn't forget that. That's my name, Sadiq. So Subah Sadiq is the Arabic for true dawn, which is the beginning time of Fajr, and which is literally when you see a thin white light above the horizon. Okay, of course, we can't see the horizon in this, where we live. So of course, we just follow the apps, don't we? We follow what we find on the phones. Okay, so that tells us the timings, specific timings. So, but remember, whatever timetable you follow, you got to be strict with that timetable as well, because you will find different timetables. You follow one, you stick to it. Okay, so whatever that says, you follow it. So the true dawn, that's the time you have until to make the niyat for the Qadha fasts of Ramadan. Okay, now if the niyat is made after the starting time. Let's say for example, someone wants to keep the Qadha fast of Ramadan, and now you've made the intention after Fajr. Okay, what's going to happen? Will the Qadha count? No, the Qadha will not be valid for that day. You still need to make up for the Qadha. So then what will happen to that fast? That fast will just become a nafal. It will become a nafal fast. Do you understand? Because he's kept the intention too late for the Qadha, it will just fall into the nafal category. Does that make sense?
You have to make up the qadha.
So for example, if I have 3 qadha that I need to make up for, and I've made the intention now after Fajr, that fast will be nafal, and I still need to make up 3. 3 are still upon me that I need to make up for. Does that make sense? Okay. So if you keep the intention after Fajr for a qadha, it will not be accepted as a qadha, it will be accepted as a nafal. And the same rule applies to the kafara fasts. Okay, we're going to go into more detail about what is kafara. But so for example, if someone is keeping a kafara fast and they've made the intention after Fajr, then that will not count as a kafara fast, it will count as a nafal fast. Does that make sense? So in a nutshell, in this slide, for the qadha fast, the intention needs to be made before Fajr. Yeah? It needs to be made before Fajr. So what's the difference between the Adha and the Qadha of Ramadan? What's the difference in the intention? In the Adha, you have until when? In the Adha. In the Adha fast, in the fast that you keep in Ramadan, when do you have until?
Till Kubra to
Adhawatul Kubra. Let's say 11 o'clock. To make it easy, let's call Dahwatul Kubra 11 o'clock. In a normal 6 to 6 a.m. sunrise, 6 p.m. sunset, 4 a.m. Fajr. In that day, Dahwatul Kubra is 11 o'clock. Yeah, go for it, Faisal.
Adha fast, right? Adha.
So Adha and Qadha are fard.
Adha, why is it Adha that you can still make the intention at Dahwatul Kubra?
Dahwatul Kubra. Why? Because a good question. The answer is Ramadan, because of course, when are you going to keep the Adha? You're going to keep it in Ramadan. Allah has already specified Ramadan for you. Allah has already specified Ramadan for you. All you need to do now is make the intention that I'm fasting. That's all you need to do. You need to just specify in your mind that I'm fasting. And for that, that's why you have until Dahwatul Kubra. Remember in the Nafal as well, in the Nafal you have until when? Dahwatul Kubra. You have until Dahwatul Kubra. It's a bit of that, ease basically. Do you understand?
But I guess my question is, if it's for the intention is there by default, right?
So for example, let me tell you this, okay? I haven't come to this slide, but if someone keeps suhoor, if someone has suhoor, in a sense, partaking in suhoor is a substitute for the intention. Why are you taking suhoor? Because in your heart, you're going to fast. And remember, what is the place of intention? Is it the tongue? It's the heart. So you have to feel it. As long as you're feeling it, that I'm going to fast, then you don't need to say anything verbally. So having suhoor is silly if someone's having suhoor and they're not going to fast, unless you're very hungry. But having suhoor in Ramadan, that is enough for your intention. You don't need to, that's enough. You don't need to say anything verbally anymore. But here I'm trying to explain to you, okay? For example, let's say someone's forgotten to have the suhoor, and they've woken up, and let's say they've woken up at 10 a.m., and they haven't made any intention. They never made the intention the night before. They still have time to make the intention. I'm going to fast today. Do you understand? Okay? But let's say now they wake up at 10 a.m. and they're like, I need to make up, it's not Ramadan, and I need to make up for 3 fasts for qada in Ramadan. Too late. You have to make the intention before Fajr. Okay? But a good question, the reason why you have until Dahwatul Kubra, because Allah has already specified Ramadan for you. Allah has already specified it. You just need to make sure you have that firm intention before Dahwatul Kubra. Before Dahwatul Kubra, you have a bigger time limit. For the qada, you have a smaller time limit. You need to make sure you do it before Fajr. Does that make sense, inshallah? So that's the main big difference between the Adha fasts of Ramadan and the Qada fasts of Ramadan, okay? Now, of course, the next slide, very simple question. Does the Qada of Ramadan receive the same reward as the Adha of Ramadan? Okay? Does it have the same reward? The Prophet ﷺ says, listen to the hadith, very important. Whoever breaks the fast of Ramadan without any valid reason, okay? Without any valid reason, he breaks the fast of Ramadan. Or, he decides not to keep the fast of Ramadan. Okay, from the beginning of the day, he says, I'm not going to fast tomorrow. Okay, I'm not going to fast tomorrow. For no valid reason, then if he was to even fast for his entire life, he will not be able to make up for that reward if he was to keep it in the month of Ramadan. Because the month of Ramadan is such a blessed month. He's missed that opportunity. Do you understand? This is, of course, if he breaks the fast or doesn't keep the fast for no valid reason. Now, of course, if he breaks it due to a valid reason, for example, he's ill, or he doesn't keep it in the first place because he's traveling, he's a musafir, he's on a safar, then when he does keep the qada will make up for the adha, the reward of the adha. Okay, the qada in that case will make up for the reward of the adha. So when you have a valid intention, when you have a valid reason, the reward will be made up. If you don't have a valid reason, then of course you will never be able to make up for that reward that you've missed. It's an opportunity, the month of Ramadan. We don't want to be squandering it. We don't want to be wasting any opportunity that we get. Okay, it's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He's even given us the month of Ramadan. So this was a very easy question. That does it receive the same reward? If you have an excuse, yes. If you don't, no. Okay. The next question, can a person delay the qada? So for example, you got three fasts qada. Can I delay it until winter when the days are short? Can I? Can, but it's better for me to do it as soon as possible. Okay? It is a sin to delay the qada fast unnecessarily. Do you understand? It's a sin to delay it unnecessarily. If, for example, if you're, let's say, I'm not saying, of course, mashallah, we have many old musallis in the community who are very strong, but generally if you're old and maybe you find it hard to fast in the long days, yeah, you find it very, very hard, okay, then of course, you can delay it until, the winter days where the days are short. If you're someone young like you and mashallah Faisal, yeah, you shouldn't be delaying it for, to make it easy for yourself. You should fulfill it as soon as you can. Yeah, it's a sin to delay it unnecessarily. Okay, does that make sense? Now one moment, let me go to the next slide. Does the intention need to be specified in the qada? Okay, does the intention need to be specified in the qada? So of course, first of all, we've already established. So we are still looking at intention, but now we're looking at the intention in the qada. Yes? Okay. Now in the qada, we mentioned that the intention needs to be there before fajr. Intention needs to be there before fajr. Yes? Do you understand? But you know how, for example, in a wajib fast, when you vow to make a fast, when you vow to make a fast, you need to make sure the day is specified. That for example, I vow to fast on the 14th of February. I've already specified the date, yeah? But now, for example, let's say I've missed 44. If you didn't know that, then keep that in mind, okay? 1444, that's the Islamic Hijri date, okay? So if we look about 2 years, 1442 and 1443. Say someone has qada fasts in 1442, and they also have qada fasts in 1443. In that scenario, they need to specify the year. For example, they will need to say, I am making up for the first qada in the Ramadan in 1442. Yeah? So when they've got qada fast from 2 Ramadans, now they need to specify the Ramadan. Does that make sense? Usually that shouldn't happen, should it? Yeah, you shouldn't be delaying it for that long, okay? Unless you're traveling the whole year, okay? Or you have a valid reason. You understand? But usually, you shouldn't be delaying it for that long. But in the case that it does happen, you got qada fast from the 1 Ramadan and you got qada fast from the 2nd Ramadan, then the only thing you need to specify is the Ramadan. You only need to specify the Ramadan year. You understand? So, if he has missed fast from 2 Ramadans, then it will be necessary to specify the year of the Ramadan in the intention. Okay? Does that make sense, inshallah? Very simple question. Next question, how should the qada of Ramadan be kept? So if you got 3 qada fasts, uncle, what do you think? Should you keep them all in one go, or should you keep them separately, or it doesn't matter? What do you think?
It doesn't matter, but as you said, it could be done as quickly as you can, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, you're right. So he may keep them separately, or he or she may keep them consecutively, okay? But they should not be delayed, exactly what you said, uncle. It's as if you saw the slide from before, but you didn't. I know you didn't. I'm joking. Yeah, but they should not be delayed unnecessarily. Everything that we've covered so far, does anyone have any questions at all? In case you might forget if you get to the end. Does anyone have any questions? So everything's been simple so far, yes? In regards to the qada of Ramadan. Remember, what's the opposite of qada? Ada, yeah, with a dal. Ada, okay, ada. Okay. And the next question, what is the ruling of keeping a qada in the following Ramadan? Okay. Okay, and this question is for a resident. Okay, I want to explain to you what do I mean by a resident. Right now, we are all residents, meaning we are at home. Okay, in Arabic, this is known as muqim. Okay, and the opposite of muqim, you should know, musafir. What does musafir mean? Traveler. Okay, so this question applies to a muqim. It doesn't apply to a traveler. Why? We'll learn about the masail of a traveler later. Because of course someone might be traveling in the month of Ramadan. You might be on a business trip for 2 or 3 days to wherever you have to go, Germany or wherever, Berlin or wherever you have to go. Some people have business trips where they need to go, important business trips. So this question, this mas'ala is applying to a resident. So a muqim, like how we are right now. So what is the ruling of keeping a qada in the following Ramadan? What I mean by that, say for example Ramadan inshallah will be coming in 2 months. Okay? And just imagine now I'm in the month of Ramadan. I'm in the month of Ramadan and I just remembered, oh Allahu Akbar, I've still got one fast to make up from last Ramadan and I forgot to make it. I forgot to do it. Yeah, now am I able to make up for that qada in the month of Ramadan? Or do you think? Definitely not, because remember what I was saying before, the month of Ramadan has already, for the ada, has already been specified by who? Allah. Allah has already specified it as, you know, as the ada fast. It's important for the muqim, for the residents, that they fulfill the Ramadan ada fast. Do you understand? So the answer, if a person intends to keep the qada fasts of the previous Ramadan in the current, then what will happen? Then the fast that he's keeping, of course, in his mind he's thinking, I'm keeping qada, but no, the qada will not be fulfilled. What will be fulfilled? The fast will be regarded as the current Ramadan. The fast will be regarded as the current Ramadan, and the qada that he wanted to keep, it will not be valid. He will still need to make up for that qada.
So having made the niyyah to keep qada in Ramadan, which is wrong, it won't be valid.
The qada won't count.
So he won't be penalized for not realizing I'm in Ramadan and I'm doing qada. He won't be penalized at all.
Meaning the ada will be fulfilled. Because remember, in the month of Ramadan, the only thing we need to specify is I am fasting. Of course, he has made the intention, I am fasting, qada. So Allah won't look at the qada, because Allah has already specified ada. Allah has already specified ada. Allah is just going to look at the part, I'm fasting, that He's made in the month of Ramadan. Does that make sense?
So essentially you're double counting if you have this.
Start again.
You're essentially double counting if you're thinking that with your qada in the other.
Yeah. Now, if someone now is thinking, let me try and kill two birds with one stone, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Then no, that's not going to happen. You won't be killing two birds with one stone. One stone is still going to be left on your shoulders that you need to make up for. Do you understand? This is why it's important that we learn these things. Because someone actually might be thinking, let me keep my qada in Ramadan, my ada will be done as well. No. Only the ada will be done, qada will still remain on you. Yes?
You see, we talked about intention in the last lesson.
Yeah.
We're doing now. So I made the intention to qada in Ramadan, which is wrong, can't be done. But Allah Ta'ala forgiven me for my making a wrong intention, and He accepts my
Meaning there's nothing really there to forgive. Yeah. As long as you make up for the qada later on, then you're okay.
Oh, yeah, but I should be foolish enough in Ramadan to ask to do qada for last year.
Of course, Uncle, these are all scenarios. I wanted to give you scenarios which, because you never know, someone might, it might fall into. It might happen. Yeah. It might happen. Especially you understand? That's why, Uncle, what did you say? Especially when you're traveling. Yeah, Uncle, remember this is only for the residents. I don't want to talk about travelers now because I want to go into detail when it comes to the traveler. Why is there a difference between traveler and a resident? There's a reason. I don't want to go into too much detail right now. Right now, understand this mas'ala. Yeah. In regards to the resident, if he keeps the intention of qada in Ramadan, qada will not be fulfilled, the ada will be fulfilled. Okay? So in short, for a resident, if any other intention is made in Ramadan, for example, the 3 fasts that I vowed to keep if I pass my driving, if I now in Ramadan, I say, I'm going to keep, those 3 fasts today, tomorrow, and the day after, it will not count. The fast of Ramadan will overpower it. Why? Because that is fard. Fard is the highest level. Remember, fard is the highest level. It's obligatory by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Now the question, of course, remember, we spoke about qada all this time. Qada means what? Missed. Yes? Making, the missed fasts. Okay? And when does qada become, when does qada, fall upon a person? When either he hasn't made the intention to fast in Ramadan, or he's broken a fast for a valid reason. He's ill or he's traveling. Does that make sense? That's when you need to keep qada. Okay? When you haven't even kept the intention in the first place, you need to make up for the ada, which is known as qada, or you've broken it because you're ill or you're traveling. That's when you need to make up for the qada. Now, when does qada and kafara become wajib upon you? Now, what is kafara? Kafara is basically, the English term for kafara is the compensation. Compensation. When do you need to keep kafara? When? The answer is after you have made the intention to fast. In the month of Ramadan, say, I've made the intention to fast. But, if a person, after having made the intention to fast, he intentionally eats, he goes, do you know what, even though I've made the intention to fast, I'm still going to eat. He's eating on purpose. Yeah? Or he drinks on purpose. Or he has marital relations on purpose. Yeah? Any of these three things. Remember, after he's made the intention to fast. If he hasn't even made the intention to fast, then just qada he will need to do. Do you understand? Some people don't know this. Some people think that if you just eat in the month of Ramadan, you need to keep kafara. But you only need to keep kafara if you've eaten after you've made the intention. Does that make sense? Okay? So once you've made the intention and then you've eaten or then you drank or you've had marital relations, then you need to do the qada and you need to keep the kafara.
So it's 2 days. So I might have to do it 2 different days.
So you think kafara is fasting for 1 day?
The whole month then.
Just 1 month? This is when kafara is something very important. That's why we need to know about this. Very important masail coming today, inshallah. You'll see. I'm going to go into kafara in detail. Just for now, understand this, okay? Slide by slide. That's why I say if you do have pen and paper, it might be good to take some notes here and there. Little notes, okay? Or you can always see the lesson afterwards if you want at home, if you have the time, mashallah, okay? So the qada and kafara becomes compulsory when after you've made the intention to fast and you've broken the fast on purpose. So 2 things, you've made the intention and then you've broken it on purpose. Then you need to keep the qada and you need to keep the kafara. And so this person, his fast will be void and he will need to keep the qada and he will need to keep the kafara. And kafara, this compensation for the fast, it's only for the fasts of Ramadan. Okay? If you break your vows, if you break your fasts which you made because of a vow for no reason, there's no kafara. You just need to redo it on another day. If you break your nafil fasts, no problem. But you just need to make up for it on another day. No kafara. Kafara is strictly only for Ramadan because the Ramadan fasts have been specified by Allah. Does that make sense? Okay. So now the question: how does one fulfill kafara? Is it fasting for 1 day? Is it fasting for a month? No. And you said, what did you say?
There's something I heard about like
feeding.
Homeless.
So now I would say, basically, you got part of the answers, but not the complete answer. Huh? So this feeding, okay? There's different times when you feed a different number of people, okay? Sometimes you need to only feed 10 people, but that's nothing to do with the fasts. That's when you break a vow. Yeah, that's when you break a vow. Like if someone breaks a vow, this is now a completely different topic. If you make for example, if you make a vow that I'm not going to engage in marital relations, these kind of things, and then you do, then you need to keep, you need to feed, and it's all in the Quran. Okay, Allah explains these different things in the Quran. But strictly in this one, what is the kafara? They're all known as kafara, by the way, compensation, okay? But what is the kafara for Ramadan? Okay? Now you said feeding the homeless. For example, for you and me, I would even say for you, for us feeding the homeless will not fulfill it. Okay? You need to look at what Allah says in the Quran. The first way to fulfill your kafara is by freeing a slave. Of course, do we live in a day and age where there are slaves?
We can do that. That's free.
Uncle, do we live in a day and age where there are slaves? No. So remember, we need to go in, look at it in order. Yeah, we can't just jump to option 3. We need to look at option 1 first. The first way to fulfill our kafara, remember the Ramadan fast that we break without any reason. Okay? That we break without any reason. First, you need to free a slave. If one is unable to, of course, in this day and age, especially living in this country, there's no slaves. Okay? Then what must he do? He has to fast for 2 consecutive Islamic months.
60 days.
No,
Islamic months.
Islamic months could be 59, could be 60. Yeah, but listen to the wording, consecutive. So you can't do any miss. You can't miss one out in the middle. If, for example, I'm making up for the kafara, and I fasted for 55 days, and on the 56th, I haven't made the intention, or I don't keep my Ramadan, I don't keep the fast. I need to make up the 60 all over again. I need to make up for the 60. Go on.
So I already did 55.
You done 55?
One day missing. Then I have to do horror.
Exactly. That's why it's no joke. The Ramadan fast, you should not break without any valid reason. Yes, uncle.
So when you do kafara fast, which is for 2 consecutive months, because having entered that to do it, we must have made intention, from the heart, saying, look.
Like I said, uncle,
Kafara.
you're right.
If I get to 55th day, and I don't make the intention, but I already made the intention for 60 days, so I'll make an intention every day then.
So, uncle, like I said, look, intention. Remember, uncle, intention is this. Let's say it like this. Intention is this feeling in the heart.
Yeah.
If you have this feeling in the heart that I'm gonna fast my 56th day, that's your intention. That's it.
Fast for 60 days, 2 consecutive Islamic months.
Exactly. Then meaning
Then I don't need making it.
your intent. Yeah, that intention is valid. Because remember, what did we learn in the first slide? In the first lesson, what is the place of intention? Not the mouth. It's the heart. So as long as you're feeling in the heart, as long as you believe in the heart that I'm going to fast tomorrow because for my kafara, then that's okay. Yeah, I'm going to fast for tomorrow for my kafara, that's enough.
Believe me, I will.
Let's say, for example, now.
I'll be remembering every second. If I'm going to do 60 days, every breath I'll be taking, I'll know I'm fasting.
Exactly. Of course, saying it with your tongue, it just, it's good. It's just reaffirming, that's the word. It's reaffirming your intention. When you say it with your tongue, you're just reaffirming your intention.
It's just if you don't do it, so
let's say for example, I've fasted 55 days, and now I'm just giving you a random example. On the 56th day, I've got an important football match. Yeah, and then I'm dying of thirst. I'm like, do you know what? I need to break it now. I can't do it. Yeah, I can't do it. I need to drink a bottle of water, and I drink water. That's it. I need to make up for the 55 all over again.
So that's great. But say if you're ill in those 60.
If you're ill, I think you need to keep it. You need to make up for it all over again.
If you're ill.
The only excuse that there is for women. We'll learn about it, uncle. We're going to come to the slides. If you, I believe, if I recall from my memory, in one of the slides, if you're ill for 1 day, I think there might be leniency. I don't want to confirm it now. When you come to the slide, we'll see. If you're ill for 3 days, then I think it's different. But uncle, we'll come to those slides, inshallah. For now, understand, keep this in your mind, okay? That the qada, that the kafara, if you break it, for example, easy example, football, you need to drink water, then you need to make up for the 55 all over again, okay? The only excuse, we haven't come to it, the only excuse, actually we're going to come to the slide right at the end, you'll see the slide, okay? I don't want to mention the only excuse yet, okay? So the first option was, option A, freeing a slave. If you can't, then, only then you go to option B. You don't just jump to option B, you go to option B after option A, okay? So option A was fasting for 2 consecutive Islamic months. So for example, if I begin my fast on the 5th of Muharram, then I'll fast for all of Muharram, Safar, and Rabiul Awwal, I'll fast until the 4th. I'll fast the 4th of Rabiul Awwal, and that's it. Does that make sense? That's 2 consecutive months. Okay? Of course, that could be 59 days. That can even be 58 if both the months have 29 days. But I don't think that usually happens. As far as I'm aware, as far as I've heard, the Islamic months, they work, sometimes it's 30, 29, 30, or it could be 30, 30, and then 29. I don't think you get 2 months with 29. You won't get that, I believe. Okay? So, you got to fast for 2 consecutive months. Okay? And remember, these 2 consecutive months, it can't fall in Ramadan. It can't fall in Ramadan. Let's say, for example, someone decides, you know what, I'll begin my kafara on the 5th of Rajab, And then of course, what's going to happen? That's going to go all the way into the 4th of Ramadan. The last 4 days have fallen into Ramadan. Or that bichara, all his hard work, he'll need to redo it.
Well,
See-
this day you're going to make.
So you want to make sure you have a good 2 months free from any Ramadan fast, and not only that, also any days which are forbidden. So make sure you're not doing it in the month of Dhul Hijjah, around Eid al-Adha. Don't be doing it in that time as well. So do it away from Eid al-Adha and do it away from the month of Ramadan. All the other months are okay. Even the months between, even if you look at the months between Ramadan and Dhul Hijjah, for example, Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, and also the first 9 days of Dhul Hijjah. You can do it in those days. That's okay. Once you hit the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, 10th is haram to fast. 11th, haram to fast. 12th, haram to fast. 13th, haram to fast. Do you understand? Okay, so you don't want to be fasting. Those days are haram to fast. Okay?
So these, you could push it into the winter months.
Right now, I believe so, yes. You could do it.
What I'm seeing so far, that doesn't stop me saying, because you've given me, make sure I have 2 clear months.
Yeah.
So I could say, well,
You can do it in December, you can do it in November, December, because right now, November, December, Eid al-Adha doesn't fall in November, December, does it? Right now it's falling in July or August, isn't it? So
I could take advantage of the shorter.
Exactly, you can. Exactly. Okay. So kafara needs to be for 60 consecutive days. So usually they just say 60 consecutive days. Okay. Now, if you're unable to fast, for example, your old age, okay, or any chronic illnesses, okay, you can't do it for 60 consecutive days. You just can't. Okay. What do you do then? Then, Faisal, he must feed 60 miskins. The miskin is an Arabic word for someone who is completely pure. They have nothing. Okay. In Arabic, there's quite a few words for poor. You have faqir, which means poor, and miskin is someone who is even more than faqir. They have nothing. You understand? Okay. So if you can't do option B, which is fasting for 2, remember, if you can't, we can. Okay. Being strong, young, you should be able to healthy. You should be able to fast for 60 consecutive days. Now, if you can't, then you must feed 60 masakin. The plural of miskin in Arabic is masakin. So you must feed 60 masakin, full 2 meals a day. Okay, full 2 meals a day, not just a 1 meal a day, but lunch and dinner, whatever. Okay, you got to feed them 2 full meals a day. 60 miskins, yeah, lunch and dinner, just for 1 day. And that's it, that's your kafara done. That's of course if you can't fast, okay? It sounds like an easy option, but this option only applies to you if you can't fast for 2 consecutive months, yes?
What happens, for example, is 60 days, right, consecutive you have to fast. Day 32, you have to go traveling somewhere, unexpectedly, whatever the case may be. Is it again the same case as you said before, where you have to restart?
Yeah, I think you'll definitely need to restart it. But if you're traveling, I will say this, okay? I will say this. We live in a day and age where traveling is very easy now. Even though travel is used as an excuse. For example, if I leave my area, if I go from here to Birmingham, okay, I'm traveling by car. If I want to, I could pray the full Dhuhr. But because Allah has told me to pray the 2 rakat, the qasr, I just need to do that. So same with this, Ramadan, if you're traveling, the thing is, it's easy, we can keep the fast. We can keep the fast. And if you don't, then know that you're just restarting it all over again upon yourself. Does that make sense? So the easy option would be to keep it.
But you just said about 2 rakat and 4 rakat.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Even if you can do 4, we must only do 2.
Yeah.
Because that's a rule. Yeah.
We're not allowed to delay it. We actually, for example, we learned this, now we're going a bit off, but I'll mention this. We even learned, say for example, a person, they're traveling and they're praying the Dhuhr, yeah, which is Salatul Qasr. Qasr in English just means short, the short prayer. Because I'm a traveler, I'm not going to pray the full prayer anymore, I'm going to pray the short prayer. Okay? So the short prayer for a musafir, for a traveler, in Dhuhr is only 2, isn't it? if a person now, do you know what, I'm going to pray the 4 because I can, the thing is, it's actually wrong. What he's doing is wrong. Because he should be finishing after the 2nd, and he's not. You're delaying that finishing. That delaying is a mistake. That to the extent that you need to actually do a sajda sahwa, because you're delaying for no reason. You understand? If I want to pray nafal, I can. Nafal I can pray. But the fard, because Allah has told me that, you can make it short, then I need to make it short. No question. Does that make sense? Okay? So, but of course, back to this. For the kafara, first option, free a slave. Second option, if you can't, fast for 2 months consecutively. Third option, if you can't, feed 60 poor people 2 meals, okay, in a day. Once you fed those 60 people in that day, that kafara is done. That kafara is fulfilled, okay? And of course, he does not need to feed the 60 masakeen at once. He can feed 30 on one day, and then he can feed 30 another day. Okay? And even to another extent, there's a different ways of fulfilling the kafara when feeding a poor person. Another way, even one poor person, if you feed them for 60 days, which is a bit easy to, this is actually a very easy option. Just, have them around for dinner and lunch, okay? Have them around for lunch and dinner, get them to eat full meals, okay? You can't just be giving them, half portions. Give them full meals of lunch and dinner. Then that's your, for 60 days. This is also another way of fulfilling the kafara. And this option only applies if you can't fast for 2 months. Remember, some people jump to this option, where you can't just jump. You need to ask yourself, can I fast for 2 consecutive months? You can't be like, no, come on, you can't lie about it, you can't joke about this stuff. If you're in old age and you definitely valid, in good reason you can't fast, then of course it's, then you go to this option. Do you have a question?
But you said invite somebody for lunch and dinner kind of thing. But it's probably fakir to fakir, below fakir. Where are you going to find below fakir in the UK?
No, you will, meaning someone poor, uncle. Of course, in this country you might not find.
Below fakir, I thought up to now, it was the poorest man on the street kind of thing. But you said it's going to be lower than fakir.
Meaning generally it's the same. Yeah. But people do say sometimes that miskin is someone who has completely nothing. Right. Okay, so but if you go back to our countries, you'll find
So either we send it to relative and say feed 60 meals kind of thing to miskin, or just give it to charity here.
Meaning, you don't want to give it to charity. No, meaning.
How would we do it? But how would we do it?
So, for example, someone in that situation, of course, they look in their own community, they look back in their own village. Okay, of course, family back home. If you have someone who is genuinely poor, then they're not living in they're not living in a house. You still can be poor. Okay, living in a mud house, that person still is poor. Okay, but if you're living in a house where you have pots and pans and clothings and everything and saris and if you have a lot of this stuff, then you're not poor. You understand? You got to be someone that hardly has these things, hardly has the necessities. They don't have the necessary things that a person should have, like pots and pans, and enough clothing for yourself. Yes.
Is it specific, or is it must be Muslim? Or
No, it's got to be Muslims. No. I do believe it has to be Muslims. That's a good question. I'll come back to you on that answer next lesson. I'll come back to you on that answer next lesson. Okay? Remind me. But what do you call it? Genuinely, of course, is when you think about feeding, you feed the poor Muslim. Say, what was that?
Homeless people are maybe around London or whatever.
Yeah.
Someone saying like they don't have anything.
I know they're homeless completely.
In this world, you know what I mean. So that person could be like.
Do you know what I think? I think in the Quran, Allah just says masakeen. So nothing, being a Muslim hasn't been specified. But just to double check, I'll get back to you on that next lesson. Okay, that does the poor have to be Muslim? Very good question. Okay, very good question.
We'll find many.
Others you could. But remember, this option only applies if you can't. Remember, you guys are thinking about option 3. But remember, can you do option 2?
I'll pass the option 2. I'm safe going straight to the option 3.
Yeah?
I'm COPD, I'm chronic. You use the word chronic, I'm COPD. I'm
Okay.
chronic on asthma, so...
Imam, is this one kafara?
Huh? Yeah, this one. So, for example,
Missed three, yeah.
no. For example, remember this. Okay, if I've broken 3 days qada for no reason, then I just need to keep one kafara. Okay. So for each Ramadan is one kafara. Each Ramadan is one kafara. Does that make sense? Okay. So the feeding, there's different ways of feeding. Okay. You can feed 60 poor people, 2 full meals, or you can feed them 30 now, 30 later, or you can feed 1 for 60 days, or you can do the options are endless. You can feed 2 for 30 days, or you can feed 3 for 20 days. Yeah, if you're good at maths, then you can figure it out. Yeah. So this was this question. Now the next question: what if one cannot feed 60 miskeens? In a day, or he can't feed 1 miskeen for 60 days himself. Okay. For example, you mentioned in living in this country. See, now in this slide, listen to this. Okay. You're living in this country, and maybe you're not going to be able to find 60 poor people. Yeah. To feed in your house. Yeah. You can't give them food. You can't give them two containers of biryani. Yeah. Uncle, what are you going to do then? That person, if you can't find them physically yourself, yeah, uncle, you were mentioning about giving back home. This option will apply. Okay, this answer will apply. What will you do? You will give 1/2 of a sa'. Sa' is a Arabic term for a measurement. Okay, it's an Arabic term for a measurement, and half a sa' is equal to 1.92 kg. 1.92 kg. So if you want to, just say 2 kg for ease. Yeah?
I can't even get 1 kg for £3
So that's what I'm saying. When I made these, I actually did check. I think 1.1 kg in Asda is about £1.60.
if you're going to send the money back home, you said.
Yeah?
Even there, the price has gone so up now.
Yeah?
I'll get that. I'm going to check that now.
Yeah? I mean, I'm not sure how much is back home, but in this country, and it's 1.92 kg of wheat. There are different, you can give it of a half a sa' of dates, but this is a bit more expensive. This is expensive, so of course wheat is the one that we usually go on. Of course, when we give the sadaqatul fitr, we give it based on the wheat, don't we? Which is about 3-4 pounds. Okay, so that's why I've gone on wheat. Okay, because it's the normal one, it's the normal staple that is used. And of course, wheat is used to make flour, isn't it? So you either give half a sa', 1.92 kg of wheat, or its value, which is about £3, and you give that £3 to every poor person. You give that £3 to each poor person. So you give £3 to 60 poor people. You give £3 each to 60 poor people. Okay, if he decides not to feed them, so that is an easy option that you can do, uncle. Giving £3 each to 60. If you want to make it £4, make it, the more the better. Yeah, but you want to make sure the value is not below the value of 1.92 kg of wheat. Yeah, you got to make sure it's not below that value. If it's below that value, then it won't be fulfilled. Yeah, you got to make sure that you're fulfilling the minimum.
But that value has to be valued where you live.
So for example, the best thing to do is, if you're sending it back home in India, find out how much is 1.92 kg of wheat.
Here.
No, they're back there.
No, but that's there. It will always be cheaper in a third world country than here. And what we were using is you saying, well, yeah, if I buy 1.2 kg here, it's dearer, so I'll pay.
So the thing is, uncle, I'm going to tell you this. Okay, I'm going to tell you this. If a 1.92 kg of wheat or let's say flour, does cost about £3 in this country, and it costs £2 back home, then of course, if you want to give £3, that's better.
But if I gave £2, it doesn't
if you give £2, no, it would, because with that £2, they'll be able to buy 1.92 kg of wheat, isn't it? Let's say the vice versa. Let's say it's £2 in this country and it's £3 there, and you give £2. How are they going to buy the wheat if it costs £3? Do you understand? Okay, so you want to give its value. If you're giving the value back home, then of course you're looking at the value back home is fine. Do you understand? Okay. So.
I asked that question because I was told if you do not use the cheap scapegoat to say, well, I've got to feed 60 people, so I feed it in the cheapest place there is. Same with Qurbani. You know, wherever cheapest there is, you've got to take Qurbani. Let's not mix it up.
Yeah.
Literally, this thing, I was told, no, you have to count for the money in this country where you are. You are. If it's £3, then that £3 has to go to feed.
I'll say one thing. Yeah. We want to look at people's cases as well. Let's say someone himself is in a financial difficulty. Then in that case, if, for example, let's say people like us, if we can afford to give £3, £4, then yeah, we should give it. We want to make sure kafara is done. But of course, the minimum requirement, let's say someone is finding it difficult, then they have to at least make sure they've given 1.92 kg of flour or its value to 60 poor people, okay? That's what they've got to do. Or they can give it to one poor person for 60 days. They've got to give it to one poor person for 60 days. And when they give it to the poor person for 60 days, there's no harm in missing out days in between. There's no harm in missing out days in between. You don't need to do it for 60 consecutive days. You can do it for 30 days, take 2-3 days break, then do it for another 30 days. That's perfectly fine. And in the 60 masakeen, in the 60 poor people, children will not count. They need to be adults.
So as far as we're concerned, they don't count. But if there's 6 kids in the house, that's their problem to share the food we're giving them. But we only count that.
You need to count the adults. You only need to count the adults. Very important. Very important. You need to count the adults. That's why you should know when you're giving fulfilling kafara, you can't just fulfill it willy-nilly. You need to know where it's going. Yeah, you need to know where it's going. For example, if you do know there's children in the house, then give more than 60. Find out how many children there are. If there's 20 children, then of course you need to give 80 or whatever, isn't it? You just need to find out. You need to make sure there's enough adults. Okay, so children will not count. And of course, one of the main reasons, of course, children will have smaller portions, isn't it, as well? Yeah, children have smaller portions. You got to make sure you're feeding, full meals, okay? 2 full meals, or giving the value, giving its value, okay?
Understood.
So that was this question. Now, the next question: is there kafara for voiding fast beside Ramadan? So, for example, as I said before, kafara is only for Ramadan. Kafara is only for Ramadan. So there is no kafara even if it is voiding the qada of Ramadan. Okay? Kafara is only for the fasts broken in Ramadan. What do I mean by even if it is voiding the qada of Ramadan? What do I mean? For example, say, I was ill in Ramadan and I missed one day. Now that I'm, after Ramadan, I'm going to make up for that one day, isn't it? Yeah? I'm fasting and now I feel thirsty. For example, let's say I had a football match and now I want to drink water. Do you understand? Now, of course, that qada is broken. I need to make up for the qada, but I don't need to do kafara. Kafara is only when you break the fast in Ramadan. Okay? So think of it like this. Kafara is for the ada of Ramadan. Kafara is for the ada fasts of Ramadan. Okay? Now, what will not fulfill the kafara? Okay? What will not fulfill the kafara? So, for example, how I said, you can either give 60 people, just to keep things easy, you can give 60 people £3 each, okay? Or you can give one person £3 for 60 days. What if I just give him 3 times 60? What if I give him £180? Because that's the same, isn't it? Giving a poor person £3 for 60 days is the same as giving him 180 in one go. Yeah? So can I do that? So the question, if one poor person is given the value of the whole kafara, remember the whole kafara is 30 sa'. 30 sa', and 30 sa' is roughly 115.2 kg of wheat. Okay? Or its price. So its price, if £3 was each, of course, if you get it on bigger, the value actually might be cheaper than 180, isn't it? When you do what's the word? Bulk buying, yes, yeah. Bulk buying, yeah. When you buy it all at once, yeah. For example, I've got a 116, 120 kg bag of wheat. Can I just give it to the poor person and say, here, my kafara is done. I've given you the wheat. Khalas. Will that happen? Yeah. If you give it on one occasion, the kafara will not be valid. Okay. The kafara will not be valid. What will that count as? That will just count as giving him one occasion. For the kafara, it needs to be done 60 occasions. Kafara needs to take place 60 occasions. When you're feeding 60 people, each person is an occasion. When you're feeding 30 people for 2 days, that's 60 occasions, isn't it? When you're feeding one person for 60 days, that's 60 different occasions. Does that make sense? It must be done on 60 separate occasions or to 60 miskeens, 60 poor people, okay? If one provides a poor person, can a person give one kafara on behalf of 2 Ramadans? So like we said, we spoke about if you've missed 5 qada, if you've broken 5 qada, if you've broken 5 fasts in Ramadan, in one Ramadan, you just need to keep one kafara, okay? Now let's say the next Ramadans come, and you've broken fast in there, and you still haven't kept the kafara for the previous Ramadan. Now, how many kafaras do you keep? Do you just keep one? You need to keep 2. For each Ramadan is a kafara, okay? One kafara will not fulfill for 2 Ramadans, okay? If a person breaks a few fasts from one Ramadan, then only one kafara is wajib, okay? But if he has not yet made the kafara, and he breaks the fast of the next Ramadan, after making the intention. After making the intention, he breaks the fast, then 2 kafaras must be made for each Ramadan. For each Ramadan, 1 kafara, okay? For each Ramadan, 1 kafara. Does that make sense? Very simple, okay? So each Ramadan has its kafara, okay? You can't just think, okay, let me wait till this Ramadan. If I break a few, then, I can... Yeah, it won't work like that. For each Ramadan is 1 kafara. Now the next question, as Uncle was saying, what is the ruling? One second, let me just go back one moment. Oh, no, sorry. So yeah, what is the ruling if one feeds 60 miskeens as kafara despite having the capability to fast? So you have the capability to fast for 2 months, okay? You have the capability, but you want to go for the easy option, and you feed 60 poor people. What will happen? If one is able to fast, then feeding the 60 miskeens will not fulfill the kafara. Feeding the 60 miskeens will not fulfill the compensation. Yeah? If you have the capability to fast, then one must fast for 2 consecutive months to fulfill the kafara. Okay? And if one is unable to fast due to old age, like I mentioned, if you're unable to fast because of old age or you're a chronic illness, you're getting to that state in life that it's difficult, you can't do it, then only then option 3 is there for you. You may feed 60 miskeens to fulfill the kafara. Okay? Very simple.
That was my question earlier on, in the sense, I get up in the morning.
Yeah.
Like I said, I got COPD, so I could be quite chronic sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, well, let's go and do sehri or
Suhoor, yeah.
And see till about 11 o'clock.
Can you do
how
it?
I feel.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is good intent. It's not bad.
No, of course it's good. It's good.
If I get an attack or something like that, say 10 o'clock when I get up after doing my vision and going to bed and I said, no, it's too much. I'm not going to.
Then you break. Of course, that's a valid reason.
That's right. Although I've done sehri because you said it's hard. I wouldn't get up and do sehri.
Yeah. So you've made the intention to fast.
But then I don't do my intention.
I mean, you've broken the fast.
Yeah.
But for a valid reason. Remember, Uncle?
Oh, yeah, right.
It's a valid reason. Then you don't need to give kafara.
Do it 'cause
You just go to qada maybe on the short days. Because of course, seeing what you're saying in that scenario, fasting for the long days will be difficult. So in that case, delaying it for a valid reason is fine. Of course, Allah, He doesn't want any hard, okay? He doesn't want, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرِ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرِ. Allah says, it's in the ayat in Ramadan. Allah wants ease for you and He doesn't want hardship for you. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone is, if you've requested someone to fulfill the kafara for you, a relative back home, can you do that? If a person requests someone to fulfill the kafara on his behalf, and the request is fulfilled, it is valid. So if you tell your friend back home, feed 60 poor people 2 meals a day, 2 meals in a day, then that's it. The kafara will be valid, okay? If his kafara is fulfilled, but if his kafara is fulfilled without his knowledge and consent. So for example, you've told your friend, I've got kafara to fulfill, man, and I need to do it. And your friend now, he goes and feeds 60 poor people without even telling you. And he, as a surprise, he tells you, I've done it for you. That's not gonna, you need to have given him consent. Yeah, do you understand? Okay, and with that, you need to have the knowledge of it. Do you understand?
By this, you don't mean, right, that, let's go, if you take a step back.
Yeah.
You fast for 2 months. It doesn't relate to that, right?
No, this is to, yeah, of course, if someone has fast 2 months for you, if someone fasts 2 consecutive months, I've done the kafara, no, that's not going to work, okay? This is like feeding the poor people. This scenario is referring to when you're feeding the poor people, okay, back home. If it's done without your knowledge and consent, then the kafara on your behalf will not be valid, okay? Does that make sense?
Even if you say, right, okay, here's the money for doing it for me.
No, but that's your knowledge. That's your consent. Here's the money.
No, he's done it. He's done it, said to me, you mentioned about you're not keeping the fast for what I think. I fed the 60 people.
No, that's not going to work.
Did this £30, £100.
No. You need to tell him from before. You need to tell him, do this, fulfill the kafara. Yeah. To be on the safe side, you should even give the money from before as well. Yeah. Don't let him pay for it. Send the money, pay for everything that you need to, and get him to do it from your money. That's the safest option. And in this slide, of course, we're talking about, I think this is the last slide, we're talking about fasting for 2 months. Of course, women, they have a barrier, don't they? They have a barrier in their life where they will not be able to fast for 60 consecutive days. So how will a woman who is able to fast, of course, a woman who is able to fast, how will she keep the kafara? So if a woman's menses, okay, her menstrual period, if it comes in between the 60 days, it might come twice in between the 60 days, then what should she do? Once the menses start, of course she won't fast. She won't fast. As soon as it, finishes, she should immediately continue. Do you understand? So say for example, she's fasted 10, the 11th, 12th, 13th, something that we learn in the Islamic books. Normally a menstrual period is from 3 to 10 days. Okay, so let's just take the number 7. Okay, say the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, she's on her menses. Then as on the 17th night she becomes pure. On the 18th she should immediately fast. She shouldn't be like, let me just have 1 day break. Okay, she needs to continue straight as soon as she is purified. Okay, now if a few fasts are missed due to nifas means postnatal bleeding. So say before giving birth, she's keeping the 60 days. Okay, of course not a good time to keep it. But let's just say for example she's decided to keep it. Even there's a whole question. Should a pregnant woman fast? Okay, the short answer, no, because it can affect the baby. You're lacking the baby in nutrients. You should be eating. You're not just eating for yourself. You're eating for the baby. But in the case that a pregnant woman does fast right at the end of pregnancy, and a few fasts are missed due to nifas, postnatal bleeding, or if she becomes sick. We mentioned about becoming sick, didn't we? Okay, even if a man becomes sick, then the kafara must be restarted. Okay, the kafara must be restarted. So in all this lesson, we learnt about qada, the opposite of qada, which was ada, and we learnt about how to fulfill the kafara. Not fasting for a month, not feeding a poor person, depending on your case. If you're strong and young, you need to fast for 60 days. If you're not strong and young, then you can feed 60 miskeens for 2 full meals. And of course, in the other scenarios, if you can't do 60 miskeens, you can do 1, but it has to be for 60 days. So the main thing to remember is it needs to be done on 60 occasions. 60 occasions. Does that make sense? Yeah, 60 occasions, 2 meals. So that brings us to the end of the second lesson. To be honest, I never think that these lessons will last that long, to be honest. I thought it would be done in half an hour. But we just go on. So,
That's a good timing.
no, alhamdulillah, I'm really happy that when Faisal Bhai came through the doors, I was really happy to see him as well.
Yeah.
Huh?
Go and join it. So
No, it's good as well. And Isha time now as well, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah guys for being part of the lesson. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.